What up, people? When I was a kid, platformers were a huge part of my life. Whether it was Crash Bandicoot, Kirby, Sonic the Hedgehog, or of course Super Mario, those are the games I typically enjoyed the most. Now, thankfully, the Nintendo Switch is home to many different games in the genre, new and old. And because of that, I want to showcase some of the ones I think you'll enjoy the most. Now, for those who are new to the channel, my rule for these list videos is I only do one game per franchise because I want to give the viewers some variety with my recommendations. But that's enough for the intro. Here are 10 must-buy platformers available on the Nintendo Switch. First on the list, we have Ori and the Blind Forest Definitive Edition. An enhanced version of the 2015 release, Ori and the Blind Forest is a visually stunning action-adventure platformer that combines exploratory gameplay with a heart-wrenching emotional narrative. The Definitive Edition naturally has everything the original has, plus a lot of added content. One of the biggest additions are two new areas called the Blackroot Burrows and the Lost Grove. Other additions include multiple difficulty levels, new abilities, challenges, and fast travel. If you prefer games on the shorter side, you're in luck. Ori takes about 9 hours to beat the main game and 12 hours to complete everything, so not too bad. When I originally played this game, I enjoyed it but got frustrated after a while. But with the inclusion of different difficulties, whether you want an easy, challenging, or brutal experience, Ori and the Blind Forest will definitely deliver. Next on the list is another definitive edition with Rayman Legends. Being a Switch port of the 2013 Wii U release, this 2D 3D hybrid has gameplay very similar to that of Rayman Origins. Throughout levels, you and up to 4 people will be collecting looms, defeating enemies, and freeing teensies that have been captured. Collecting teensies unlock new worlds which can be played in any order once they are available. The game features over 120 levels, including 40 remastered levels from the original Rayman Origins, which are unlocked by obtaining lucky tickets, which can also win additional looms and teensies. On top of that, the game has invasion levels which are kind of like individual speedruns, challenge stages, and even a soccer game called Kung Fu. With the Metacritic score of 84, Legends has been praised for its visual presentation, level design, controls, soundtrack, gameplay, and a large amount of content in general. You're looking at about 16 to 31 hours of playtime, and the game has been on sale on the eShop for as low as $8, so a pretty good deal. If you've never played a Rayman game before, I think Rayman Legends Definitive Edition will be a very welcome surprise. At number 8, we have Crash Bandicoot N. Sane Trilogy. Initially released in 2017, this game is a compilation of the first 3 games in the Crash Bandicoot series. Similar to that of Final Fantasy VII Remake and Shadow of the Colossus, this game was made from the ground up while still remaining pretty much identical to the originals. N. Sane Trilogy was released to favorable reviews and was praised for its gameplay, graphics, and being faithful to the original games. When speaking specifically about the Switch port, Digital Foundry was mostly pleased with the quality of the game, noting that outside of resolution and some texture differences, there was no real downgrade compared to Xbox and PlayStation. The game is frequently on sale for under $20 on the eShop, and you're also looking at about 15 to 23 hours of content. Personally, I think Crash Bandicoot Warped is worth the purchase alone, but getting 3 amazing platformers in one is something you'll surely regret not picking up. Next up, we have Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Originally released on the Wii U in 2014, Tropical Freeze is the 5th game in the Donkey Kong Country series and is a successor to Donkey Kong Country Returns. Level design, music, and tight controls are held in high regard when gamers talk about Tropical Freeze. And when it comes to the Switch port, it didn't really make any changes to the game other than a bump in resolution to 1080 when docked, so that's kinda nice. Games in the Donkey Kong series have been known to be pretty hard to the point of turning some people away, but luckily Tropical Freeze comes with a Funky mode, which is essentially an easy mode where you play as Funky mode, so if difficulty is your main concern, then you'll be fine. Tropical Freeze takes about 10 hours to get through unless you want to 100% the game, in which case you're looking at about 30 plus hours. Also, this game rarely has a big sale digitally or physically, so if you can catch this game for under $40, you should probably jump on it. If you already played or you own the Wii U version, then I probably wouldn't recommend it. But just like I said earlier with Ori, if you want a platformer that can be punishing at times, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze will definitely deliver. Coming in at number 6, we have probably the most challenging game on the list with Cuphead. The game is a run-and-gun indie, and even though it isn't a platformer in the traditional sense, the game has seen so much critical acclaim, I felt the need to mention it even though I haven't played it. Cuphead's gameplay is based around continual boss fights with interspersed run-and-gun levels. The game also includes role-playing elements and a branching level sequence. The player can purchase weapons and charms from the shop using coins collected from the run-and-gun levels. Player characters feature a parry attack that can be used on certain objects marked in pink to various effects, the most important of them being increasing a super meter that enables more powerful attacks. The game was praised for its art style and noted for its challenging difficulty. It was both a critical and commercial success, winning several awards and selling over 4 million copies. The game will take about 10 to 25 hours to get through, and the game plus the Last Course DLC can be found for under $20 here and there. As I said earlier, I personally haven't played this one because it looks like it will cause me to break a controller or three, but if you're not a huge man-child like me, then Cuphead could be a worthy addition to your library. Starting off the top 5, first we have one of my personal favorites on the list, Katana Zero. The game is a 2D platform and hack and slash game presented from a side-scrolling perspective. As you control the assassin, rightfully named Subject Zero, your goal on every level is to kill all the enemies in the various rooms. The enemy gets hit once, they die. If you get hit once, you die, and then you have to start all over from the beginning of the first room. Zero can run, jump, wall kick, pick up and throw items, attack using his katana, and dodge. Zero's ability to slow down time and predict the future allows the player to activate a slow motion effect, enabling them to predict enemy movement easier, although use is limited by a meter that gradually refills. Outside of that, the game switches up gameplay here and there by including levels involving motorcycle chases, stealth missions, and an alternative player to control. The story is also really good in my opinion. The game does a great job of tackling dark and psychological topics while still finding ways to add humor when it's appropriate. Honestly, I can't really say too much more without spoiling anything, plus I think it'll be better to go in knowing as little as possible and figuring stuff out for yourself. It's pretty good though. But forget about gameplay and story, I want to talk about the soundtrack. The music in this game is nothing short of phenomenal. As someone who plays a lot of RPGs, specifically JRPGs, after a while I tend to put games on mute due to the repetitiveness of the music. But Katana Zero is probably one of the very few games where I listened to the soundtrack all the way until I saw the ending credits. Bro, I love the music so much I even bought the vinyl. It's a short game in theory with an average playtime of 5 hours, but I died so much that it took a lot longer. If you're someone who prefers physical, unfortunately I don't think there's one available at the moment, so it's going to cost between $8 to $15 digitally. I could talk more about how addicting the gameplay is or how this game almost single-handedly started my love for indie games, but I've talked way too long already. Simply put, when it comes to gameplay, story, and music, Katana Zero is definitely punching above its weight class. Next on the list, we have another indie game, Shovel Knight Treasure Trove. The game is a 2D side-scrolling platform video game developed by Yacht Club Games and was originally released in 2014 for PC and 3DS and later the Nintendo Switch in 2017. Treasure Trove features 8-bit graphics designed to resemble classic games. While the color scheme closely mimics the Nintendo Entertainment System's original color palette, the game also incorporates aspects of modern graphics. The gameplay follows the Shovel Knight as he collects treasure and fights against the Order of No Quarter. Shovel Knight's primary means of attack is, spoilers, his shovel, which he can either use to attack enemies head-on, dig up treasure, or aim below him while jumping to bounce on enemies. The Treasure Trove edition of this game includes 3 other campaigns, Plague of Shadows, Spectre of Torment, and King of Cards, along with the multiplayer fighting game, Shovel Knight Showdown. It will also take about 25 to 30 hours to get through all of it, so if you can find it on sale, you're going to get a lot of content for a decent price. Of all the games on this list, I like this one particularly because it really gives me that old school feeling of playing games on my cousin's SNES when I was a kid. Shovel Knight has been released on what seems like every console ever made, and with how much fun, style, and charm this game provides, I can definitely see why. Moving into the top 3, we have Celeste. The game follows a young woman named Madeline as she climbs the somewhat magical Celeste Mountain. Facing opposition from both the mountain's natural obstacles and from within herself, the story has been praised by many for the way the game tackles depression, anxiety, and just mental health in general. While playing as Madeline, you'll have the ability to run, jump, climb walls for a limited amount of time, jump off walls, and dash in midair in one of 8 directions. Objects throughout the levels such as gems, bubbles, and blocks will be added as you progress up the mountain and will be used to help you or make things harder. One of the things I like the most about Celeste is how you can tailor the difficulty to what you prefer. Is the game too easy? Add strawberries and levels to make the game even more challenging. Is the game too hard? Turn on the assist mode so you can enjoy the story and have fun without stressing. Simple game mechanics like those make it so the game is accessible to a much wider audience, which is great to see, especially in an indie game where you want as many people to try your game out as possible. Also, similar to Katana Zero, Celeste is a game where even though it was difficult, I never felt like it was because of poor mechanics. If I died, I knew it was my fault, and that made me want to keep going, which made finishing levels and chapters that much more satisfying. Since its release, Celeste has seen a lot of critical acclaim. It has a Metacritic score of 91, received a 10 out of 10 from IGN. It was also nominated for Game of the Year next to Spider-Man, Red Dead 2, and God of War in 2018. Celeste is one of the most successful indie games ever made and is 100% a reason why so many people play indie games today, especially on the Switch. I usually try to avoid being extreme with game recommendations, but if for some reason you haven't picked up Celeste, I think you're truly going to regret not giving this amazing little game a shot. At number 2, we have another favorite of mine with Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Released in March of last year, Kirby and the Forgotten Land is the 13th main game in the Kirby series and is the first game, excluding spin-offs, to be full 3D. I've become a big fan of 3D platformers over the years, especially ones that incorporated an open world, and Kirby and the Forgotten Land did a great job of adding an open world but not making it feel too big to where it feels pointless and counterintuitive. The core gameplay is the same as any other Kirby game. You fight enemies, copy their abilities, beat the levels, fight a boss, rinse and repeat. One new aspect this time around is being able to evolve your abilities. In order to do this, you have to find the blueprints while playing through a level, and afterwards take it back to the game hub world, Waddle Dee Town, and get the ability hat made. The enhanced abilities are really fun to use while going through levels, can be useful during boss fights, and some are also needed to unlock certain treasure rolls, which I'll get into in a little bit. I know a lot of people weren't the biggest fans of Kirby Star Allies because of how handholdy and easy it was, and while Kirby and the Forgotten Land isn't exactly Elden Ring, it's still more challenging than Star Allies, specifically the side content. One of the parts of the game that give gamers a challenge are the treasure rolls, which are essentially trials you have to complete using a pre-assigned Kirby ability. Depending on the star ranking between 1 and 3, it can either be a cakewalk or something that's going to take you a couple times to complete. I also heard that a lot of the post-game content is good for people who want some challenging stuff to do that involves getting multiple endings, boss tournaments, and collecting more ability blueprints. I haven't played them, so I can't confirm it myself. Up until this game came out, Kirby and the Crystal Shards was my favorite Kirby game by far, and the Forgotten Land pretty much took that game and improved it in every single way. The levels are bright and colorful, there's secrets to find which make you want to explore and discover them all, and the music of each level just adds a fun and relaxing vibe that almost make it impossible not to put a smile on your face. Also, as of March of this year, the game has become the highest selling game in the Kirby series with 6.46 million copies sold, which also makes it one of the best selling games on the Nintendo Switch as well. Even though I'm a huge Kirby fan, I would still recommend this game to fans of platformers anyway, because when it comes to just pure fun factor, very few games on the Switch can compete with Kirby and the Forgotten Land. And finally, at number 1, we have
Super Mario Odyssey!
Released the same year as the launch of the Nintendo Switch, Mario Odyssey is the 19th title in the Super Mario series and the 8th 3D Mario title overall. What separates Odyssey from other Mario games is a new capture mechanic involving his new hat, Cappy. By throwing his hat onto certain enemies, he now controls them, and can use their abilities to assist throughout the kingdom he's currently exploring. In a weird way, it's kind of like Mario's version of Kirby if you think about it. This mechanic is used throughout the game and is a fundamental part of it, replacing the traditional power-up system in prior games. Exploration is what really made me fall in love with this game. I've always been a fan of open world games, and to get that with Mario to this scale is amazing. I don't have much experience with Super Mario 64, but I can tell that they took what they had with that game and other 3D Mario games and added improvements in every single way. Going to a new kingdom almost felt like a new game each time. One minute you're in the desert with skeletons, a kingdom made of food, a kingdom on the water, or most notably, New York City. The level of variety between these kingdoms is very impressive, and I can almost guarantee that you'll miss something the first time exploring these kingdoms, which lends itself to lots of replayability. Not only is Super Mario Odyssey my favorite platformer, it's my favorite Mario game as well. I've liked plenty of other 3D platformers in the past, but Odyssey spoiled me to the point where it's hard to enjoy other 3D platformers as much because I immediately just compare it to this, which is kind of bittersweet. I can honestly say that Mario Odyssey was the most fun I've ever had while playing a video game. Between exploring the kingdoms, searching for stars, and seeing what enemies I can control with my hat, there was never a moment where I didn't have a smile on my face. So, when it comes to Super Mario Odyssey, platformer or not, this is the definition of a must-buy for the Nintendo Switch. Well, that's it for me today, people. Did you find something you liked on the list? What platformers did I miss that you recommend? Let me know in the comments. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to keep up with the channel. Later.